Hello, welcome. In this video, I'll show how to use Revit to quantify the elements of the project, and quantify here in terms of any parameters that are defined within an element. I can quantify it relative to it. So areas, volumes, I can pull any one of these parameters and represent elements using these parameters. The simplest thing is in quantity takeoff for projects. So I want to figure out the quantities of work in terms of volume, areas, and that's the typical use of that word quantification. And we'll see quantification in Navisworks, but in Revit here it's done through schedules and quantities section here, and that's here. We'll do that in this kind of variation of the sample project. So let's jump into it right away. If I right click on the schedules / quantities, and then I will show the difference between schedules, quantities, and material takeoff. They look similar, but there's little difference in between. So let's start with creating a new schedule of quantities. The project is structural, so I'll stick to the structural categories, category of the elements, and I will look for floors. This is kind of a showcase of quantification here using floors. I will stick to the name and say OK. And then I'm looking here, so the schedule will pull all the elements that fall under the family floors. And for every element, I need to decide what type of fields I need to show for these elements. I kind of did a list on my own, and of course you're free to make your own list of the fields. And these fields will be the columns on the schedule, and the rows will be the elements in the model. So I'll start with family and type. And then I can select multiple fields to move from left to right while using holding control. So I'm holding now control, and then select level, and then keep holding control to select elevation at bottom, and then area, and then volume, and then perimeter. So all of these kind of geometric properties of any element that will be pulled from the model. And then structural. So structural use, is this element structure or not? And then structural material, what's the material that's actually giving it structural performance? And then estimated reinforcement volume. And then I will move them to the right, meaning that they will appear in my schedule. And then I can change the order, usually start with family and type, and then elevation at bottom, just to know where it is in the project, and actually make the level the second field or column. And then the area, I will make the volume after area. I'll make the reinforcement the last one. Perimeter after volume, structural use, and structural material, everything is set, and then I can say OK. So that's the schedule created. All of them are floor families, but then I have different types within. There are different levels and elevations. They have their areas and volumes. So you see now all of these fields are pulled from the BIM, Building Information Model, and for every element I have here 6 elements that fall under the floor family. 3 of them are structural, and 3 of them have the structural property by using concrete. Then this is the estimated reinforcement in centimeter cube. Now I can see all the elements here have units except for 2, the elevation at bottom and perimeter. I can format the look and the units shown for the perimeter. You can see this is all in meter, but seems like perimeter is using millimeters. So to be consistent, I will go here in the left properties of the schedule view, and then go to formatting, and then select the perimeter, and then go to field format. You can see it's using millimeters as project settings. I will uncheck that and select it to be meters. And I will use the symbol here to be meter, and I want to see 2 decimals, so up to the centimeter. And then say OK, and OK. So now it's showing me by meter. I can change units of other things. Let's see if I can change the elevation. So formatting, and then elevation of bottom, field format, it's using millimeters. I can do the same to make it meter and make it 2 decimal, showing this in meter units, and here you go. Same thing for estimated reinforcement, so I can do that also. Format field, uncheck that, maybe make it in cubic meters. But you can see here it will be small values if it is cubic meters, so I will make it up to 3 decimals and say OK. You can see it's really in small quantities and meter cube. So that's how you create a schedule and format it the way you want. Now the next here would be I want to know what element is this, what element is the other one. So you can do that by selecting it in the schedule, and then if I go to the 3D view, it will be highlighted. So that's very handy. You don't need ID of the elements or so. You can jump between the schedules. So I can select something else. Let's see this plywood double brace. So it's highlighting this. Sometimes it doesn't deactivate the previous selection, so you have to zoom in and out to refresh the rendering here or the view. So that's kind of, you can now go over these elements. So if I go, this is the first one I selected. So there's this small block of concrete slab, and then the next would be this, if I move back, and it's this concrete at the rectangular shape. And then this one here is the front concrete slab. I've seen that before. That's the plywood at the wing part of the building, and this is the plywood at the second floor or the upper floor. Now if I go back, I skip the rigid installation, but if I highlight it, it's not shown. So that's tricky because you have to look under, and it's actually, if I zoom in, this is the timber framing or beam, and the insulation is going between them. So if I click escape, you know, it's not shown because it's this gray kind of element. But if I select it, now it's there. Right, so it is kind of under. Let me go out of the edit. It's under the plywood. So the plywood, and then the insulation is below it. Awesome. So that's the schedule, and it just focuses on the element itself, and it gives you quantities. Sometimes it's actually, you can do more kind of editing in how the schedule itself look by doing grouping. So I will group here by family type, and I will show this at the footer. Let's say show the title count and totals, and then show the grand total for the whole sheet. So now they kind of group it by the family type. I can see now there are, it's kind of more easier to follow. You can see what type of, how many family types and how many elements within, and it gives you kind of the total count under each category or group. So that's a quick schedule, kind of overview of how you create schedules, and give you kind of a quick overview of the quantities you have. Another thing is, don't take these values for granted. So you always want to check your values here. So let's say, for example, this element, if I go to 3D, it's this part here, and I want to kind of make sense of does it have really the area of 38 meter square? And if I selected and I can see here the area 38.46 meters square, doesn't, I mean, it's not showing the the decimals, so I will go to formatting and I can change that. So I can go to the area field and then use square meters, but then show 2 decimals here. So always verify the numbers you have. If I compare the volume also, I can see it in the properties on the left side. I have to select this again. Sometimes it's hard to pick the elements. You use hover over the element that's confusing it with you. Click on tab, it will move on the selection to the element that you're looking for. So if I look at the volume, it's 21.153, 21.53. So that's matches with the properties tab or sidebar that we have. How this volume was calculated. So if I go back to the element and I want to make sense of why I ended up with 21.53 meter cube, we can look here at the thickness. So it's 550 millimeters, so that would be 0.55 meters times the area that I have, which is 38.46 meter square. So that will give you 21.153 meter cube. So always kind of make sense of the numbers and verify. Now this is the schedule. I can create something else called quantity takeoff, and we'll see the difference between. And I'll do for the same family types or family, so floors. And it's now have the floor material takeoff, not floor schedule. And I will select the fields, so it will kind of have similar fields like before. So I will start with family and type. Scroll up. And if you scroll here, I will see more properties or fields that are opened now to me to select. Because I'm dealing with material takeoff, there are so many elements here. That's material, double dots, and then there's a property under the material. We'll see that in action when we select some of them. So the next would be level. Next would be elevation at bottom. And then next would be now moving into the material properties. So material area, material volume, and then structural material, and then estimated reinforcement. Just, you know, selecting it again, but we had it in the schedule. And then move it to here. Again, organize my table or schedule here. To reinforcement to the end. I'm just making sure it matches with what I have. Alright, cool. So, okay. And then I see here I created similar, but it's a little bigger than the schedule I had before. Schedule was more having less rows. Now I have multiple rows. And there's some kind of repetition in between. So if I think I missed something here. Let me go to the fields. I think I missed the material name. So I will look for material name. That's super important. Super important. So I'll move this before the material area. And I say okay. Now there are repetition of the elements, so for every element I'm showing it multiple times because it has different materials in it. So this is the same element. If I highlight it here, if I go to the 3D, it's this one, the same one that I saw from the schedule. If I select something else, it's the same. But if I go to something that has different family and type text, now it's showing us something else. So this is not repetition, it's for the same element I have different materials. So for this same in situ concrete slab or floor, I have concrete cast in place, rigid insulation, then proofing, concrete, rough grading, and then rubble or aggregate base. So how these materials came into being part of this element. So if I go to 3D and select that element and then edit type, and we learned before how you can see actually the structure of that element by clicking edit, and I can see the same materials that I have seen in the material takeoff are part of the structure of that element. So the concrete cast in place as on one of the face layer of this element. Then there's concrete rough graded, and then rigid insulation, then proofing, then the rubble, the aggregate base at the bottom of this. So this is the cool thing is instead of creating a schedule, I can create material takeoff, and it will take care of figuring out what material are part of assembly or an element in Revit. Now, because some of the properties, especially if they don't have the material word ahead of them, some of the values will be repeated. So all of them are referenced to the same elevation, same level. They have the same area because the floor, they belong to the same floor element with a horizontal area, but they have different material volumes. That's the quantity here. That's probably will be the differentiator between the different materials here. They also can share this property, which is the reinforcement. Again, this reinforcement is tied mainly to one of the concretes, but it's in the data model it's tied to the element here. So let's see how these material dots, double dot volume quantities or values are calculated. So if I focus on this element here, in situ, this is the rigid insulation. Actually, let's stick to the concrete one, this one. How they came up with 1.92 meter cube, and the whole element here is 38 meter square. Actually, this is area and volume. So let me then show, just to get a sense of these numbers, the volumes. So I'll go to fields again, and then instead of material volume, I'll just show the volume, insert that, and then move it close to the material volume. So I have material volume and volume. You can see here the volume of the whole element is 21.15 meter cubed, but 1.92 out of it is actually concrete. So how we ended up with this? So going back to the 3D, and then I'm now selecting it, so I just edited. And then I want to see, this is the concrete cast in place concrete. That's the element that has the 1.9 something meter cube. And it has a thickness of 50 millimeters. So that's 0.05 meters. Now, if I go back and I look here, if I multiply 38, so 38 times 0.05 meters, it's gonna be, should me given the 1.9 meter cube. Why it's not giving me exactly? Because the area is not 38 meters square exactly. So if I go to formatting and then go to the area here, then make it square meters, but then show 2 decimals. So it's a fraction above the 38 meters square. So if I now calculate this to be, calculate the volume to be 38.46 times 0.05, that will be 1.923, which is rounded to 1.92. So again, make sense of the numbers. Material takeoffs take care of, figuring out what material goes into each element. Instead of giving you only properties for the whole element, it breaks it down and figures out the quantities for different materials that goes into that element. So that's the end of this video, and I hope you got a sense of what's the difference really between a schedule and a material takeoff. Thanks for watching. Take care.